Like right now? Oh. Well, let me finish my verse then. I want to rock right now. I'm proud and I came to get down. I'm not internationally known, but I'm known to rock the microphone because I'm not stupid. I am outrageous. Stay away from me if you're contagious. What's up, everybody? Welcome to So Crazy, episode 91. Is that right, Dwayne? 91. America 101, criminalizing dissent. Guys, we have seen it again. The streets are filled, cities, towns across America, as people are expressing their outrage, not even surprised at this point at the lack of criminal charges filed against the officers in Louisville, Kentucky, regarding the murder of Breonna Taylor. But something interesting happened. Not interesting, really, but yesterday, if you were watching the show, we were speaking to Kentucky State Representative Attica Scott. She is the only Black woman legislator in the Kentucky legislature, and she was arrested last night, charged with a myriad of felonies. We're going to revisit our conversation with her yesterday and give you an update of what's been happening with Attica. Also, we're going to talk about your man's Donald Trump. If you think Trump is playing, Trump ain't playing, y'all. If the election does not go his way, he's not leaving office. And the Republicans, and especially the Senate GOP, are falling all over themselves to try to explain that, yes, Trump will participate in a peaceful transfer of power. Lying. They have gone along with all of Trump's shenanigans up to this point. Why wouldn't they just go for that final clincher? Of course they would. We're going to get into that. Plus, in the wake of more unrest in various ways across America, we're hearing again from our Negro whisperers, people who the elites trot out to talk to the Black folks and make them understand that the way they're going about this is it's the wrong way. We got to figure out a way for y'all to protest. We don't like the silent kneeling. We don't like the protests in the streets. We don't like the canceling of people on social media, even though that's not really a thing. A lot to get into. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching today. And if you want to get them comments, questions off in the chat, please be sure to do so. James is off today. The chat could be wide open. It could be Wild Kingdom in the chat. I'm not exactly sure what's happening. But also shout out to everyone that's watching us on Periscope. We appreciate it. Now it's time to bring in our fantastic panel. We've got a good one for you on Stir Crazy Friday, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. He is an artist, rapper, activist, organizer. Eze Jackson is here, friend of the show. All friends of the show today. No, this is all people here today. All the way from the West Coast, bringing it to you, Justine Barron, independent journalist, and of course, the angry sociologist. He's only angry sometimes, representing North CAC, Taure Brown. What's up, y'all? Nice panel today. Nice to see all your shining faces.
Yeah, what's poppin'?
What's up?
Oh, there's a lot. Dwayne, let's get to some of that video footage. Let's go to what happened to Sister Attica Scott last night. Again, in the streets of Louisville, people, I mean, obviously the outcome that was revealed by the Attorney General, Mr. Cameron, Trump's boy, Mitch McConnell's boy. How are you out here portraying yourself like Mitch McConnell's black son of all people? But yes, the failure to charge anybody directly related to Breonna Taylor's murder. I want us to look, Dwayne, if we could, at the video that Attica Scott shot herself last night. She was streaming live on IG when the police surrounded the Unitarian Church, which organizers in Louisville had designated to be a safe space, because Louisville had instituted a curfew last night, but churches were excluded from the curfew. So the protesters were converging to the Unitarian Church, which was in proximity to the main library, which suffered some damage. And that is part of the reason why Attica Scott was arrested. Police allege that she had something to do with damaging or vandalizing the library. So let's look at a quick clip of her IG Live moments before she was arrested by Louisville police.
We love you! Yeah!
They got us blocked in. Cool!
We got you! For you!
And let's look at some more of that footage, also, Dwayne, of people that were in the streets last night in Louisville, just making their voices loud and clear. So again, yesterday we had the opportunity to speak with Kentucky State Representative Attica Scott here on Stir Crazy. I want us to take a quick look at the comments that she made hours before she was arrested by Louisville police. And again, I didn't know she was going to get arrested when we spoke with her. I'm sure she didn't either, though I'm very sure she was prepared to, if necessary, because, again, she is Kentucky's only Black woman legislator, and she is the author of Breonna's Law for Kentucky, which hopefully will pass the legislature. But let's take a look at her comments.
Well, it was very clear that there was going to be an announcement coming. And while the mayor and the governor both claimed every day this week that they didn't know when the announcement was coming, the governor sent in the state police and the National Guard, and the mayor ordered barricades around downtown Louisville, where Injustice Square Park is located, where we've been protesting for 120 days consecutively. So they were clear that something was going to happen. I will say that last night, the police were ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. They were basically doing donuts in the street on Market Street. They were harassing protesters. They had drones flying over our heads, and it was probably done illegally, according to the Federal Aviation Administration regulations. They were shooting off flashbangs multiple times. They threatened us with chemical weapons, chemical agents, as they call them. They arrested more than 100 people. More than 100 people were arrested. Activists, leaders, protesters, standing up for justice. So it's very clear that they were prepared to go to war with the people that they are paid to protect and serve. I will also say that as I was out with folks protesting and breaking curfew, I talked to many people who were very clear that yesterday was day one of continuing the protest to policy work. And so people are clear that they're moving their work into policy, that they will continue to protest, and they understand that we have to change the policies that allow for Breonna Taylor to be murdered. We have to end no-knock warrants. We have to make law enforcement wear and turn on their body cameras, and we have to have alcohol and drug testing of officers who are involved in shootings and deadly incidences. And so that's why I have filed Breonna's Law for Kentucky, and we now have over 1,000 people across the state and across the country who have signed on as community co-sponsors to say that we must pass Breonna's Law for Kentucky to protect Black people and other people across this Commonwealth who the police treat as if they are less than human.
Well said by Attica Scott there. And we do have an update about 2:30 this afternoon. She tweeted from her Twitter page that she and her daughter Ashanti are home. They have been released. They are back. And if we could get that tweet up, Dwayne, because it was a little nugget of information about Attica Scott that I did not previously know. Eze Jackson will certainly appreciate this. She's a union lady. She was repping for AFSCME. AFSCME came out and said, "Hey, this is one of our sisters. We stand with her." So I was like, "Ooh, AFSCME, hey!" Yes, Attica Scott. She says, "My daughter Ashanti Lynn and I are home. Thank you for the love and support. This statement did me in." She talked about the statement from her union. "I was so concerned that my library family would believe those dangerous charges from the Louisville Police Department. It matters that my labor union family spoke up quickly and without reservation." And she quote tweeted, "Ask me local 3425, which paraphrasing here, saying that they continue to stand in support with all the protesters demanding justice for Breonna Taylor. And we send our love to Representative Attica Scott and the protesters arrested with her." Eze Jackson, let me start with you here because, well, first of all, everyone on this panel has experienced witnessing uprisings in the street as a result of some action of police violence, which initiated the whole thing, right? And then the people respond, and then they are to now met with violence. But what is your take on not only the lack of charges in connection to Breonna Taylor, but the message that is being sent both ways, from law enforcement to the people and from the streets back to law enforcement?
I'm not surprised. I don't think any of us were really surprised, especially after, the family got the settlement. In Baltimore, Freddie Gray's family was given a settlement, and then we immediately saw the police officers who murdered Freddie Gray let off with no charges. So, it was like watching a sequel to a movie. The beginning, the plot. There's things that happen during the movie, but all the main things, are going to happen. The kind of textbook things, and I felt like I wasn't surprised. I think that my hope right now is that people see that the importance of voting out people like Daniel Cameron out of office. Here in Baltimore, we saw when Freddie Gray happened, we saw an increase in voter participation. People started to pay attention to the city council people, the mayor, the state's attorneys, and all of those seats that were changed over. And now we have a much younger guard. We got a incoming mayor, Brandon Scott, that I think will, bring some new things to the city. So I'm hoping that the people of Louisville and people of Kentucky in general just get active and get Daniel Cameron's ass out of there.
Mm-hmm. Justine, there are clearly big movements nationwide for defunding the police and abolishing the police. In response to these demands from protesters, the city of Louisville responded by adding $250,000 to the police budget while simultaneously slashing a comparable amount, $775,000, from the city's libraries. It's being said loud and clear in a lot of places, big and small, that defunding the police is almost a non-starter, at least in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this on here before, but police reform is really dangerous at this point. It's millions and millions of dollars getting poured into this racket of spending more on the police department in the theory that you could fix them by just investing in it. Training, policies, equipment. And in Baltimore, I saw it, 1 year after the other. They spent millions on a consent decree, millions on reform. The budget went from about 200,000 to about 200 million to about 500 million, 1/6 or something about that of the city's whole budget. Schools don't have air conditioning. And exactly during that time, when reform was really pitched as a major thing happening in Baltimore, a criminal squad of officers just went nuts, stealing from dealers, selling drugs, apparently killing people and stealing overtime. So I think that I'm hoping at this point that everyone is just as scared of the word police reform as they are of anything else, because this doesn't need to be reformed anymore. It is a systemic system that is unjust, and it, like ICE, we kind of just need to get rid of a lot of it, in my view.
Exactly. Justine raises a great point there, Tori. I mean, if this is police reformation, then by all means, please God, kill it with fire, because it has been unsuccessful. Well, I guess it depends on what perspective you're looking at, how successful these police reform efforts have been. How can we break people out of this repetitive sort of reflexive reaction to, the police fucked up and killed somebody innocent, then we have to reform them. We have to train them better. What's it going to take to break people out of that back-assward way of thinking?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing we have to do is just really, really pitch to people to understand the purpose of the police. And you can do that looking through history all the way up to current examples. And if you take a critical look at the police, you understand that their purpose is to protect the interests and the property of the wealthy, of the rulers. So once you see that's their function isn't to create a safe environment. It isn't to help people. It's literally to defend the interests of the rulers. Then you can start to see okay, well, if that's the purpose, then obviously we need to get rid of it because that doesn't serve us in any kind of way. How we also do that on the ground is we start to meet the needs of people in alternative ways now, whether it's with money that we've got from defunding the police, or whether it's just money that and energy and power that we've raised among the people, to start meeting people's needs in a way that doesn't involve the police at all. So if we know that people have a need to call somebody when they're having a mental health crisis, then we need to find a way to organize ourselves where we can meet that need. Because then people will see like, oh, we don't need the police when somebody's having a mental health crisis. We can solve this problem ourselves. Or we don't need the police when somebody robs somebody's house and we need to figure out who did it. We don't need the police for that. We can solve these problems as a community on our own and create new alternative institutions. And once people are able to kind of see those concrete examples, then they'll really realize that we don't need the police at all. Like the purpose is not to create and solve and address these issues that we talked about. So I think that that's really how we get people towards really supporting and understanding that abolishing the police is critical to living in a free and just society.
All right. So what the spin and the rhetoric coming from the right and from people who don't want to defund the police, because really I can't even attribute that perspective solely to people on the right or to conservatives, because there are a good many Democrats and liberals who are not interested in defunding the police either. The Democratic nominee for president and his running mate being number one and number two, who are not interested in taking any money from cops. But the rhetoric that comes from the other side, so to speak, is tends to focus on the rise of violent crime, especially in major cities during the summer, which to me seems like an annual thing that kind of happens all the time. But for some reason, the focus on 2020's summer, especially in cities like Chicago, is being seized upon as a big talking point for those who want to continue police as they are. Justine, explain this to us, why this is and is not exactly what we think it might be.
Yeah, I mean, this was happening before this year, but it's like, if you take like a basic logic class, the first thing you learn is that correlation isn't causation. So two things are happening. People are protesting the police and crime is going up, maybe. So then the leap is to say that one is causing the other. So people protesting the police is causing crime. And a lot of journalists are really sold on this racket. I mean, there's this guy out of Baltimore, Alec McGillis. He's made a 10-year career out of constantly saying that, you know, more crime is happening because people don't like police. So the way this plays out a lot in the media is they'll ask the question, I saw this all summer, you know, if crime is going up, is it because of protesting? So they'll ask the question, and like the more right-wing outlets will say it is because of protesting. And then their logic for determining that it's because of protesting is either, you know, everyone's just rioting and vandalizing and killing like crazy because we're all liberal. Or they'll say, people are angry at the police and that makes the police not want to do their jobs. So they get sad and they quietly withdraw while still collecting pensions and bonuses and stuff. So then they say, well, now the police won't arrest people, so crime goes up. But all of this is like, first of all, there's no correlation between arrests and crime. It's just whenever they see it happen, one goes down and one goes up, they just assume it's causation, right? So there are first of all, there's also evidence that crime isn't really growing up that much more than usual, plus COVID. People don't have jobs. Everyone's really upset. There could be underlying reasons for both, but it's just this really basic, stupid, logical fallacy that, so then the more responsible media might ask the question and they'll say, well, maybe it's not, but they've asked the question, so they've planted the seed. And now it's out there, and people are associating protest with crime, and it's not logical. And it leads to these laws that make essentially protest or any kind of alliance with protest illegal. So now you have this representative in Kentucky being arrested for rioting just by association, because now protest causes crime. So I didn't mean to go on that long, but that's the problem.
Well, you were making plenty of sense, dear, and this is a make sense space. So take your time. And, you know, we have witnessed a lot of this nationwide, this criminalizing dissent, ranging from the protesters in Portland, Oregon. Once they came before a magistrate for their bond, they were instructed not to participate in any further protest or demonstration. big constitutional rights violation there. Also, the state of Tennessee, with their Republican governor and Republican-controlled state legislature, passed a law now that criminalizes camping on the Capitol grounds, the Capitol state grounds, which was a law targeted towards protesters, which is a felony now. And if you're convicted of that in the state of Tennessee, you lose your right to vote. And we've seen lots of these types of targeted things. Eze Jackson, I know, 2015 was such a flashpoint year in the city of Baltimore with the uprisings and everything surrounding the Freddie Gray case. And we know that the Baltimore City Police always get an increase in their budget, and their rates of clearances on homicides and a variety of other so-called major crimes is fucking terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, I think I just want to go back to one of those comments that Justine made earlier. I think we're still, and I've had to remind people, Freddie Gray, 2015 was only 5 years ago, and we're still in a process of change right now. Like the fact that these discussions are more public now, like the police budget, most recently the city council put it out there, how much money was being given to the police versus how much was being given to education, how much was set aside for, health and stuff like that. And it was ridiculously disproportionate. And I think that when people saw that, they didn't know that. People did not know that the police budget was that big. The average person did not know that. And so with that, I don't want to discredit the work that we were doing on police reform because of the name, because of the title, and get caught in semantics. I think that the conversation taking place here is bringing a lot of light to things that were not public. These things were not shared publicly. So what we're seeing right now is these conversations happening and people actually being educated on what's happening in City Hall, in the police departments, and as far as these ridiculous budgets are concerned.
Taure, in terms of putting things in a bit of a historical perspective, I know you are a history buff as well. The criminalizing of opposition, we saw during the civil rights movement. I mean, people were out there trying to get their right to vote, and they were murdered by police, lynched by police, arrested, brought up on bogus charges. I mean, how is what we are seeing today, how does that differ from different movements of throughout recent American history? Let's start there.
Well, I mean, I think part of the difference is that the police have more resources now than they did, 50, 60 years ago. They got drones, electric kind of shields that tase people. They have the ability to surveil people through their phones, through their social media. So, I mean, the surveillance apparatus is heavily increased. And so the ability for them to kind of repress dissent, I think is a lot more extreme. But as far as their kind of responses and the responses of leaders on the right and the so-called left, you kind of see the similar kind of rhetoric. You have the folks who kind of frame this kind of dissent as lawlessness and anarchy running wild. And that's kind of the right wing talking point. And then you have the left wing, quote unquote, left wing folks, which Joe Biden is not left wing, but we'll just say the Democratic Party, I guess the best way to put it. You'll have them saying, well, violence is never the answer, and that, protest, two wrongs don't make a right, basically. And it's playing into the same kind of thing. And that historically is kind of consistent. I mean, that's been the case whenever the ruling class is faced with, violence from the oppressed people. I mean, they have to repress it. And I think what we're seeing now is just the ruling class, the ruling elites, I think, are more scared than they've ever been because, again, inequality has existed for so long, and people now have access to information and are asking some fundamental questions about society that are, very dangerous for them to maintain power. If you have folks believing that maybe we don't need to live in a society without police, well, shit, how do I protect my massive mansion and all the other wealth that I've hoarded and, kind of built off of exploiting all these masses of folks. So I think that's the logic behind all of it. And again, that's always been the logic ever since the beginning of the empire.
Can I tell you, throughout these most recent events in regards to the murder of Breonna Taylor, the whole violence is not the answer bullshit. Like, yeah, no, violence is not the answer. Maybe those dickhead cops should not have gone to Breonna's house and fired off 20 plus bullets that 6 of them went into her. Others went into neighboring apartments where other people were. Yes, violence is not the fucking answer. Yes, we know. But yet somehow the police never seem to get that message. And the politicians who are finger wagging protesters in the streets never seem to deliver that message to the police either. So that whole phrase is gotten on my goddamn nerves this week. I want us to hear a little bit here. Yeah, go ahead, Eze.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, I'm really sick and tired of the nonviolent talk. I'm really sick of us not getting violent. You know, you got 17-year-old kids going from one town to another, armed and ready to support the police. You got the police, like Taure said, getting all kinds of new technology and toys to play with against us. And we keep talking this nonviolent bullshit. And I'm personally extremely frustrated with the continuous talk of nonviolence and the continuous talk of, you know, love your neighbor or turn the other cheek. Like, I really think it's time for us in this country to strap up and get violent.
Hey, everything needs to be on the table. You know what I mean? Because this whole turning the other cheek, you know, you run out of cheeks after a certain point. Let me read some of these comments, guys, from the comments. Contagious Republic says, consider that most of the raises in the budget will go towards military surplus weapons, not body cams, training, anti-corruption, specialized cops, etc. And then they went on to add, actually, this is a different comment. Unknown X says the heavily funded prison industrial complex, including the militarization of police, is necessary for the dysfunctional power structure to continue. So how the fuck do we get under this under this dysfunctional power structure? And shout out to Molly Shaw. Molly is manning the chat in the YouTube. So thank you, Molly. We appreciate all that you do. And Molly just said, LOL, Easy's comment was way too popular. In the chat. So yes, it's a popular sentiment, man. People are out here fed up. And speaking of fed up, I think all of us are sick of Donald often Trump. And the sooner his ass gets out the White House, the better. But the chances of him actually leaving the White House, regardless of the outcome of the election, which is in less than 40 days, is a little bit dubious. Can't really say which direction this is going to go because Trump is out here like P. Diddy and the Bad Boy All-Stars. Trump ain't going nowhere. Trump ain't going nowhere. He can't be stopped because it's fascism for life. Run that clip from the press conference yesterday from the White House, Dwayne, where Donald Trump was asked the question and he gave a big shrug like, we'll see what happens. Let's check it out.
Will you commit here today for a peaceful transferal of power after the election? And there has been rioting in Louisville. There's been rioting in many cities across this country, red and your so-called red and blue states. Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
I understand that, but people are rioting. Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transferal of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and you'll have we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. The ballots are out of control. You know it. And you know who knows it better than anybody else? The Democrats know it better than anybody else. Go ahead.
Mr. President, the second question is, will you...
Please go ahead.
Trump.
This nigga's a gangster, yo.
Gangster. Straight G shit, right?
It's gangster as fuck, yo. This is what I'm saying. Like, why are we talking about nonviolence? The president of the United States is ready to rock and roll if he don't win the election. Like, what the hell is going on right now?
And again, Trump said, I said what I said. And, Justine, there's a phrase that, people be playing in our faces. They be saying one thing, but really, really doing another. But this is actually the opposite of that. Trump isn't playing at all. Trump has been telling us for months that he intends to undermine the credibility of this election, that he is already doing. We know that early voting is already happening in a lot of places. A lot of people, more than ever, I think a lot of states are reporting record requests for absentee ballots, for mail-in ballots. And he's already telling us that them shits is phony. You can't believe them shits. I'm trying to tell y'all, November 5th is Trump, is 4 more years of Trump. What is going to be the reaction by the Democrats, and I guess perhaps by the country at large, when Donald Trump calls bullshit on the election if Joe Biden wins and says, I'm not going nowhere, make me move?
Well, I think Nancy Pelosi will tweet. She'll be upset and she'll tweet. And we'll get another tweet probably from Chuck Schumer. I don't know if Biden will tweet. He might just take a vacay. I don't think we're going to get anything from anybody. And it sucks. Like, I hate this. I don't know. I don't think any of them will do anything. And I think, I don't even know what AOC will do. Maybe she'll make a video telling us we've got to fight, but she won't fight. It's not going to be good. We have all of the evidence of the fact that they're not going to do anything up until yesterday when Nancy Pelosi said, we're just going to have to vote on his judges. I know there's all these legal ways that we could subvert the process. And maybe that's hypocritical, but even so, we know that they're not going to do anything. They have never done anything. This is just how it is here. So I don't know. I try, I get panicked, and then I think I grasp for some hope somewhere, and I don't know where to look anymore. And then it seems like, okay, well, I am sick of Trump. He's kind of funny, but he's such a horrible asshole. I do want him out. And then I get really terrified thinking about Biden as president. I can't help it. I do. I am just very scared of him too. Obviously, probably less scary because probably dead soon, but yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything for me. Please tell me, because I'm pretty hopeless.
No,
Hey,
I think that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No. Go ahead.
I think a young, optimistic Eze Jackson, who was a young union organizer, and out there, registering people. I would say, either way, we got to get in there in the midterm, and we got to make sure we make changes in Congress and our local seats. You know what I mean, and all that. But today, 2020 Eze Jackson is ready to strap the fuck up. I feel, Justine, I don't know what to tell people other than we might have to burn this whole shit down. Because if Biden is president, you still have a weak Congress. You still have a weak, lame duck, do nothing Congress right now. You still have the Daniel Camerons of the world as attorney generals and shit like that. So there's just so much work that Trump, getting rid of Trump is just a Band-Aid on the major issue. He's already caused so much uprising and commotion. And I think that's where the reporter was trying to put him in a position of being a leader, you know what I mean, and being a real leader. And because I believe somebody asked Obama the same thing on his way out. Would he ensure a peaceful transition, which I think was a ridiculous question. But I think that, white America, white racist America was so afraid of what we were going to do once Obama was out of office. And I think the reporter put him in that position to be a noble leader. And he let us know right there, he's not. His goons are on the ground and ready to go.
Tori, when we look at the big picture here, at what Trump, his administration, and the Republicans are doing right now, I mean, they are making a power grab for the ages. You know what I mean? Trump's calling bullshit on the election. He's going to have an opportunity to appoint a third Supreme Court justice, probably before Congress even passes an additional coronavirus stimulus, which is some bullshit. Like, y'all motherfuckers have got y'all priorities all askew. Okay, we need stimulus and assistance for the people far more than we need another Supreme Court justice. But between all of this and the fascist elements of what Trump and by extension his family and his administration are able to achieve, I almost feel like I'm watching like the Showtime Lakers, right? And they used to ask Magic Johnson when he would bring the ball up the court why he would call out the plays so the other team could hear him. He said, because they couldn't stop it. Okay, Trump is telling us what he is going to do and daring the rest of us to do something about it.
Yeah, winners win and losers lose, right? And I think that the game is set up for, the Democrats to be the losers. And it's not like they're even trying to win. I think that they accept. I mean, this is their role in this whole theater. They're the weak protagonist in a sense, right? The naive protagonist. And it's not, and it's in a devilish way, because again, it's not innocent. They know they're out to lose. Trump and the boys are out to win. They know what they're going to do. They're fighting for their interests of the ruling class, and Joe Biden's fighting for his section of the ruling class. And none of them care a damn thing about poor and working and oppressed people anywhere, right? And that's reflective. If you look at Joe Biden, we're in the midst of a social movement against police and prisons. He wants to give an extra, $300 million to the police through the COPS program. Doesn't want to engage in any kind of form of real single payer universal health care. Hasn't promised to cancel student debt. None of that shit, right? So obviously he doesn't want to win. He thinks that, folks are just going to be beholden to him or whatever the case may be. But the idea that these folks are really resisting Trump is bullshit. Just today, they approved another judge, I think in Virginia, a district court judge, a federal judge in the Senate from like 93 to 2 or 93 to 5 or whatever the damn vote was, right? So obviously a whole bunch of Democrats were involved in that vote too, but they're quote unquote against everything that Trump does and are fighting him tooth and nail. It's bullshit. It's a lie. So again, it's for me, it's just all kind of theater and bullshit. I'm with Eze. I don't even think it's a question that all of this shit has to go. I mean, again, when you really look at the root of everything, you understand that this is a shithole place that to begin with. It was founded on slavery and genocide, and it cannot produce anything fruitful or just or freedom out of that basis. You can't grow a tree out of that shit. So it has to be chopped down, dug out, uprooted, and thrown the fuck away. And the question is, well, how do we get there? And how do we realistically move towards that? And the way you do that is you resist and build. You build alternative institutions and you fight like hell to tear down the other ones that exist right now. And as more resistance they face, you move on them, right? By any means necessary. I think that's kind of the shit that I'm on and the shit I will always be on until the United States is no more.
I want us to slightly switch gears, not totally deviate from the election, but Tuesday is the first of the presidential debates between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Let's give a little preview, gentlemen and lady, or they. I don't know everybody's pronouns, but y'all collectively, yo, from a Baltimoreans. What should we expect? And guys, and for everyone that's watching, listen, I know I crack jokes. I know I smile a lot on this show. And the reason, I understand how very dire and serious times we are, but if I don't laugh about it, I will be in my shower weeping, okay? Like huddled up in the fetal position. So I have to make jokes about it or else it's going to unravel me mentally. What should we expect from a Donald Trump, Joe Biden debate? I'm guessing Trump is going to roast Biden from one end to the stage to the other. Is Joe Biden ready for all the Trumpisms that are about to come his way? Is he prepared? Is he fleet of foot and sound of mind enough to do battle and play the dozens with Donald Trump on a debate stage? To start with you, Eze Jackson.
Well, I hope that they make sure he has a nap beforehand. I'm expecting a lot of sassy comebacks. There's going to be a lot of sass thrown back and forth. I think on both sides. But I think, and I said this on my Facebook last night. I think that it's kind of sad right now that where we are is on Tuesday, two old white men are going to debate the issues that we're all dealing with while not actually having to deal with these issues themselves. If Joe Biden feared for his nephew's life or his son's life every time he left the house, he would be very clear about defunding the police, about police reform. There would be no question about it. If Joe Biden lived in a district where, you know, there was no heat in the schools in the winter, and students were learning off old textbooks, his children, we would get a different kind of discussion from Joe Biden. Right now, we're looking at a guy who is trying to win a campaign from an unpopular president. And that's really it. I don't want people to be fooled. I mean, you know, I'm going to vote for him because that's, you know, that's what we got to do right now. But I don't want people to be fooled into this narrative that I'm hearing a lot of people say, is that if Trump loses the election, then, you know, everything's going to be great. No, you're about to watch two rich old white men try their best to come up with the sassiest comebacks while using our suffering and the issues that we're dealing with on the ground to win a fucking popularity contest.
Yeah, I don't know how much serious answers we're going to get really from either candidate. They are pretty weak in their plans really for most things. Justine, but like Eze said, there's going to be plenty of sass. I'm wondering, what is Simone Sanders working on Joe Biden with when Donald Trump eventually calls him Sleepy Joe? You know, Joe's got something in his pocket for that one. He's going to be waiting for that one.
Yeah, I guess they're probably preparing his steroid pack. I hate to say it, but I think like the one thing that Biden might have going for him is that all of us feel kind of bad about elder abuse. And so if he gets abused, I mean, they're not that far apart in age, but Trump has some cocktail going that makes him seem kind of, he fights well. Whereas Biden is just, it's really hard to watch him talk or respond. And I mean, the most energized he gets is just like, grandpa got mad at the table, and people might feel bad for him. And in reality, Biden is an asshole. I mean, if you watch videos from even like 20 years ago, he was a bad guy, you know, but now he's kind of old and feeble. So maybe at best, people will just feel really bad for him. I was kind of hoping Kanye would be up there too, because if this is going to be like a clown show, I just wanted it to be like maximum clown show. Right now, the two of them, it's going to be really hard to watch. You know, I'm already so uncomfortable thinking about it.
Let me tell you something about Kanye. The political consultants, the finesse that they pulled, all the many zeros out of Kanye's pockets, telling them they was going to get Kanye on this ballot and get Kanye on this state ballot. And Kanye ain't on no ballot, if I'm not mistaken. But the amount of money, I think I saw somebody posted one of the FEC reporting documents in terms of his campaign. Kanye has spent a lot of money on political consultants.
Wow.
But shout out, I respect the finesse.
Sorry to interrupt, but just, I mean, can you imagine if we had a real viable independent candidate this year? Can you imagine if Bernie had decided to go independent, like how different that whole debate stage would be if there were one person talking sanely and energetically about real things? That hurts, because I would have loved to see it that this year, because this is the year I think an independent could have won. We have so many people that aren't going to vote for either of these two.
I just find it crazy that we have not had a real three-party discussion since Ross Perot, Bill Clinton, and George H.W. Bush. Like for that many years to go by without a third voice on that stage. And I think that when we look back at the Ross Perot discussion, he really balanced out that debate in a lot of ways, especially when he was talking about, you know, the country's budget, you know what I mean, and where we were going, where we were headed financially. You know, I mean, of course, he had crazy other views and opinions, but this third party discussion, I think, has been way too suppressed and in our face. You know, Democrats and Republicans equally have worked very hard to keep an independent voice out of the discussion. And I think that when you get around and you talk to people, a lot more people are, you know, more independent or green than you think, you know. But we're being forced into this fucking two-party discussion. I think it's really ridiculous.
Hold on, Eze Jackson. We're about the same age. Don't you remember when Ralph Nader, when Youngins was going hard for Ralph Nader? We need Ralph Nader on the ballot. We need Ralph Nader on the debate stage. Like, I remember.
In 04. Yeah, in 04, but he never made it to that general discussion. He wasn't standing on the stage with who was it? Senator Kerry and George
Kerry.
W. Yeah, he didn't get as far as Ross Perot did, and that's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Down to the wire, bringing that discussion to the table all the way down to the wire. Unfortunately, Nader didn't make it to that last round.
Taure, what are your expectations of Tuesday's debate?
Yeah, I think Joe Biden is just going to try to prove that he's more right-wing than Trump. So Trump is going to say, oh, Joe Biden's a radical left socialist. And Joe Biden's going to say, well, actually not. I think that, poor people should die. And nobody should have health care, right? Trump is going to say, oh, Joe Biden wants to defund the police and lawlessness. And Joe Biden is going to say, well, actually, I want to give $300 million to the police. And I believe that, everybody should be in prison for life, right? So I think that that's really what we're going to see. I mean, I'm not even convinced, that Joe Biden's an actual person. I've seen, Weekend at Bernie's enough to know when somebody's kind of dragging a corpse out. So, but anyway, I mean, I think for me, it's going to be tragic comedy. I'm going to laugh my ass off, roll up, get some food. I think Trump is going to just destroy him to shreds. Unfortunately, again, us people are going to be the one that's catching hell regardless, like kind of Eze made clear. So I'm not taking it with any kind of seriousness. I hate to say that. It's a clown show. So you might as well enjoy it if you like that kind of sick comedy. If not, don't subject yourself to it. But that's what it's going to be.
Hey guys, Molly Shaw. Molly has been clutch as fuck this week. Thank you, Molly. Molly is in the comments, bouncing the YouTube comment section, but she just hit me up and said that it's being reported now that Amy Coney Barrett is likely to be Donald Trump's selection to be the next nominee to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg's empty Supreme Court's seat. And Molly said it's Handmaid's Tale shit. And I have not seen The Handmaid's Tale. And someone told me, if you haven't watched it yet, it's probably a bad idea to start it right now because it's probably going to ring a little bit too true. But Amy Coney Barrett, big conservative. I believe this was the Notre Dame law school professor who also is very critical of Roe v. Wade. She clerked for Antonin Scalia. She's got like 7 kids. She adopted 2 Haitian kids. I hope somebody does a story about that because white people adopting Black children from foreign countries just doesn't sit well with me sometimes. So I'd like to know more information about that. Dog, come on. So a little bit of breaking news right there. If y'all want to, should we comment on that? Do y'all have comments on this? Because I really don't, to be honest.
I noticed. Did any of you watch The Voice, the show The Voice? Because they always had like the two. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they always had like the 2 white guys on the end, and then they had one seat where they would keep rotating in a Black male, and one seat where they would keep rotating in a blonde female judge, And the Supreme Court is kind of like that. Like we have our seat for the Black male and our seat for the white female. I guess that's all I have to say about that. I don't think the Democrats care that much about abortion anymore. So, I mean, Biden doesn't, and Pelosi campaigned for somebody who's anti-abortion. So I think rich people will still get abortions and poor struggling people will still continue to have trouble getting them.
Yeah. Rich girls never had issues getting abortions where I grew up. Yeah. I trust me, their families would prefer they have the abortion than have, the bastard baby. Their words anyway, their perspective, but that's a whole nother conversation. We'll let that be for now. We could talk about that next week. But guys, I wanted to move on to the fact that, Black people.
I won't trust anything. I just want to say I won't trust anything from the Supreme Court until I see a Black trans woman on there. You can show me a Black trans woman on the Supreme Court, then I might feel a little justified. but she's going to burn all their asses up every chance she gets.
So guys, I wanted us to talk about how I call them the Negro whisperers, right? The representatives of the talented 10th who the elites send out there to calm the rest of the niggers down because they're all upset again because the police are not going to jail for killing an innocent Black person. And this takes its form in different ways. What's your name? Dwayne. I was about to call him, sorry. Dwayne, could you pop up the tweet from Joy Reid from MSNBC? The day that no charges were announced against Breonna Taylor's murderers, Joy Reid tweeted this. She said, "Stop expecting justice from the system. Vote in better political leaders and change the system. As it stands now, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is not held even close to equally by every American. The only way to change that is to change who governs us." And I want us to go to the sort of other end of the spectrum of a similar sentiment from the one and only Charles Barkley, the NBA Hall of Famer, known for being a big conservative, known for shooting his mouth off at random times in anti-Black ways, known also for getting his ass dragged in Baltimore City when he came there with cameras trying to talk shit and talk down to the people of Baltimore, talking about he was trying to foster a dialogue between the community and the police. Baltimore City was not interested in Charles Barkley facilitating such a dialogue. But he made these comments the other night on the NBA on TNT. Why they were talking about what's going on with police violence, I'm not quite sure, but this is a quick excerpt of his comments. Let's take a listen.
Just bad the young lady lost her life. But we do have to take into account that her boyfriend did shoot at the cops and shot a cop. So, like I say, even though I'm really sorry she lost her life, I don't think that we can just say we can put this in the same situation with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. I just don't believe that. I hear these fools on TV talking about defund the police and things like that. We need police reform and prison reform and things like that. Because you know who ain't going to defund the cops? White neighborhoods and rich neighborhoods. So that notion they keep saying that, I'm like, wait a minute, we just gonna leave, who are Black people supposed to call? Ghostbusters? When we have crime in our neighborhoods, we need police reform. But like I say, white people, especially rich white people, they're always gonna have cops. So we need to stop that defund or abolish the cops crap.
And we started this.
Yeah, so this is not usually a space where we entertain the whimsical opinions of celebrities and even political pundits. However, I knew Taure Brown was going to be on the program today, and Taure has been at home stretching. He's been doing his yoga. He's been getting his Pilates in because he loves to go in on the Black elites and Black neoliberals. So Taure Brown, to you, I cede the floor, sir.
Yeah, so let's start with Joy Reid, right? So the first thing she says is that stop expecting justice from the system. And then the next thing she tells you to do is vote in that very same system. So it's kind of confusing. First of all, if the system itself is the problem, then switching out who's in place of the system isn't going to fundamentally change the problem. Will it improve some things? Sure, maybe, right? I posted a question on my Twitter, I think yesterday, how do you reform a plantation? The answer is you don't. You burn the shit down, right? You don't reform the plantation, but that's what happens. Folks say, well, we need new overseers and we need a new boss or massa, right? Don't get up to a set. Don't burn this shit down, right? And that's what Joy Reid is kind of playing into. And the same thing with Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley, first of all, he doesn't question, well, why does crime happen in the first place? Who gets to define things as crimes? I don't expect Charles Barkley to climb out the bottle and ask these kind of questions. But again, these are the same folks that are constantly, they exist to repress Black folks, to delegitimize us from asking any kind of critical questions about our situation and what we experience here. I mean, I wish we had Tyrone West mama to just rip him to shreds again, like she did when he came to Baltimore that time. But again, it's just this whole group of Negro leaders. And this is not something new. In the 60s and the late 70s, right? When folks were getting ready to burn shit down, what happened? You brought out your Negro leaders. You got James Brown and other folks to commit to Black power means Black capitalism, right? That the way that we defeat or overcome our situation is by becoming the capitalists ourselves, by getting the jobs, getting the education. Well, guess what? We got all that shit. We still catching hell. So obviously we've been voting for 40 or 50 years, and I'm not here to tell folks not to vote, and I'm not here to say that voting won't improve some parts of the situation. But if you want to get to the whole, if you want to address the core of what it is, you know that these things have to go from the root. They have to be uprooted. And again, if we do that, folks like Charles Barkley, folks like Joy Reid, folks like Kamala Harris, and any other Negro that has money or some kind of political influence, their power is now gone. Their ability to lift themselves up on the backs of us by being the white folk spokesman, you know, the whisperer, is gone. They're done. Nobody believes them anymore, and that they no longer have legitimacy. So that's why they can't support these kind of messages. And when they do try to support these messages, they distort them. And if they really commit to them, like folks like Kaepernick or something else, you see what happens. They're vilified.
Eze Jackson, let me tag you in here, sir. Let me get your take.
Yeah, I think we got to remember that when Charles Barkley is talking about rich white people not wanting to defund the police, he's talking about his wife and his in-laws. He is not speaking on behalf of Black people as a whole. He's talking from a perspective of a man who has lost touch with his people a long time ago, since he was playing for the Utah Jazz. And we know Utah is no haven for Africans. So I don't even know why he has the voice that he has. He's never won a championship ring. But he does represent that part of the culture, like we were talking about in the beginning, you know, the slave catchers, the assimilators, the W.E.B. Du Boises of the world, who would rather assimilate with white people than to actually, you know, build some true sustainability that is our own. And you know, that's just the conversation that's always going to come from those people. I love listening to the younger players right now. The younger players in the NBA are definitely more in tune and in touch with what's going on the ground than fucking Charles Barkley.
Now, Justine, I certainly don't expect you to comment on, you know, the inter workings of the Negro community, but we see this obviously come out in other ways where people, you know, liberals are shaming other progressives about, you know, voting and you know, about defunding the police. I mean, this is a conversation. This is not a subject that is 100% settled on the left. There's a lot of Joe Biden Democrats, Kamala Harris Democrats, who are 100% of making sure police receive the proper training so sad situations like what happened to Breonna Taylor don't happen again.
Yeah, and Lisa Snowden was the one who taught me to stay out of conversations like that one.
She likes you then. Okay, that's a good sign. That means that she likes you.
I was like, what do you think about this? She goes, this is really a conversation for Black people. I was like, oh, right. But you know, one thing I think white people can do better is to not use Black people who speak the language that they like as mascots, as evidence that their viewpoint is right. And I see that a lot. That happened with Deborah Messing. Like, she came out and said, well, I'm going to call Stacey Abrams on you, because she was using her. And this happens across the spectrum. Leftists do it too. I get in conversations with white people, white liberals, who keep trotting out that this Black person or that Black person agrees with them, as if to say, therefore, all marginalized people need X, Y, Z. So we have to be careful about that as white people, to just state our opinions and not reach for somebody from the Black community, which is very diverse, to validate what we think people need, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also wanted to say, you know, even folks who do have like a radical critique, right, who are Black folks, they'll also pick and choose things out of those people to manipulate the message. So you'll see now liberals are even embracing Angela Davis, right? And that Angela Davis said to vote for Biden and she's down for the cause or whatever the case may be. That's her own political decision to issue that she's going to vote for Biden. But it's interesting that those same folks don't pick up her politics as far as prison abolition, her critique of capitalism, right? Or even historical figures like Du Bois. A lot of us know Du Bois as being the bougie Negro, right? But people don't remember Du Bois being the radical black communist who basically got kicked out of the United States after he realized like all this bullshit I was saying was wrong and that, you know, all of this shit basically has to go. Sure. You know, again, these same folks, like, it's never our politics that are really at the forefront. It's always about our identity, and our identity becomes the end all be all. So like Kamala Harris automatically gets assumed to be progressive for fighting on the side of the people because she's black and that she identifies as a Democrat. And that's all you need not to be a sellout. Now, if you're somebody like Cameron or, you know, I can't even think of black conservatives off the top of my head, Alan West, whoever the folks who Herman Cain, who just bit the dust
Tim
not too
Scott.
long ago, Tim Scott, you know, all of these kind of folks, right? You can we automatically see them as being the sellouts. But again, these other folks don't get that same kind of message because they just, again, they've assumed this identity and align themselves with more of a liberal framework. But I am thankful that more of the youth are starting to reject these kind of messages. They reject it. Even Hove is catching smoke by youth. You know, even Jay-Z is catching smoke by youth, righteously, right? Righteously, which would never happen. You know, I would have thought 10 to 15 years ago or something like that. Even Beyonce can now catch the smoke from folks. So if Beyonce is not safe, none of these black celebrities are safe if they don't really commit to real radical politics and at least the transformation of change. And I think that you've seen a few that have decided, like No Name, the rapper, and a couple other folks have decided, like, yo, I'm gonna actually wake the fuck up and pick up some books. So hopefully J. Cole follows the same shit. Pick up some books, my nigga. You live down the street from me. So, you know, holla at me if you need it. And, but yeah, I'm just thankful for that part that's going on.
Yes, please collect your light-skinned brother J. Cole, because he out here sounding extra light-skinned and he needs, you need to pull his coat a little bit. Real quick, y'all, from the comments, Mr. Dead in My Pocket says, every time you hear someone telling you to work through the system, they're just saying that because they control it and they know that it's useless. That's a very good point, sir. Shout out to Shades. Elena, I see you in the comments, darling. Thank you, my sweetheart. Y'all, that's it for the show. Unless we have some last second things anybody wants to say.
Just vote. No, I'm just kidding. You should vote, but whatever. I just knew that would bother you.
But whatever. That's my take.
I think that should be the 2020 slogan. Like, you can vote, but whatever.
Don't.
Guys, I want to thank y'all. I love you. Y'all are a fun panel. Where are we at? 6:00. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all go. I'm not gonna hold y'all hostage on a Friday night. Thank you very much to my guest, Eze Jackson, Justine Barron, Taure Brown. Follow all of these learned individuals on the Twitters. You will get a good experience. My name is Kim Brown. I appreciate you watching. And listen, don't forget, the Real News Network, we are in the middle of our big fundraising drive. We need some money. We need some coins. We need all that. So if you only got a couple dollars to spare, do that so we can continue to bring you this kind of content and this kind of programming, the kind of stories that CNN's not going to give you, that MSNBC is not going to give you, okay? They're not going to call Trump son of a bitch. I'm going to call Trump a son of a bitch, okay? And that costs money. So therealnews.com/donate. We appreciate any and all support that we get from our viewers. So especially you, we appreciate y'all watching, tuning in. We will see y'all next week. Fingers crossed for Stir Crazy. Check us out on Tuesday. We may even have some special debate night coverage because y'all, it's gonna be pretty goddamn funny. I'm sorry. I know it's sad. I know we're in serious times, but Trump is going to drag Joe Biden, and I'm gonna laugh hard. Like, I'm going to do exactly what Taure did too. I'll roll up and I'm going to laugh my ass off. So listen, have a great weekend. Don't forget, COVID is still out here jumping on people. It is killing people. I don't want it to kill you. So wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance. Have a great weekend, y'all. See you later. Bye.